Hello, everybody. This is Mario Ybarra Jr. I'm here with Ruben Alvarez at Language Studio, and we're going to talk about taking things from the vision to implementing them in the world. Ruben has been a great implementer of a few things, but most of all, he had an amazing toy store in Harbor City, California called Heroes and Villains. And I want to ask you, Ruben, what was the vision for Heroes and Villains? How did you come up with the idea for that amazing toy store that you had back in the day?
Well, to put it plain and simple, ever since as a child, as you know, Mario, we never had the toys we always wanted. We've always had the little secondhand store toys, the Kmart toys. When our parents would take us to the stores, we would see the name brand Mego, Marvel, DC superheroes. Mm-hmm. But our parents, being on a budget, would look toward the less expensive toys, which we were never happy with. Mm-hmm. So growing up, I missed those toys, missed the toys that I never had. Mm-hmm. So at the ripe age of 12, 13, when my brother used to buy me discounted Star Wars action figures, I would never open all of them. I would save them. Open some, play with some, save the rest in their packages. I kept doing that for a long time. And before you know it, I stumbled across the hobby shop. And it fascinated me. Like, wow, not only can I collect these, but I can buy and sell and buy more and more and save for myself. Kind of like cherry pick, if you will, the ones I want, sell the rest. Mm-hmm. But ever since I was a little kid, I had a passion for toys because you can never have them. I mean, we used to steal them from the kid down the street. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And before you know it, my collection grew to the point where I had nowhere to put them. Mm-hmm.
So you're overflowing.
Overflowing. Plus, there was a point in time in my life where I supplemented my income and I had a lot more money to spend as I grew up. And I had nothing to spend my money on. So as a young adult, I was buying a lot more toys, and I always thought, wouldn't it be cool to have my own shop and display all this and sell them and buy and buy and buy. Mm-hmm. It became an addiction. Mm-hmm.
But the entrepreneurial spirit didn't just come all at once, right? Like, because I know your mom was also an entrepreneur. I remember going into your house when we were kids, and she had all the different patterns for all the different shorts and clothes that she would make. Wow, you remember that? And every Sunday and every weekend she would go to the swap meet. Yeah. And she would sell all the things that she would make. So in your house there was a tradition of being an entrepreneur. Right. So it wasn't from out of nowhere that having your own shops and having your own business came, right? Right. So how did that influence you?
It wasn't an influence. It was a natural part of me because I was in 1976. It's when we first started going to swap meets, and I had one-on-one interaction with a lot of people at a swap meet because I had to help my mom. Yeah. So and that's what really helped me a lot. So it was always a part of me. It was never an influence. It was just a natural part of me. Mm-hmm. I love one-on-one interaction with customers, and the cool thing about that was I would find all kind of stuff. I was always, I don't know. Ever since a kid, I always felt like there was some form of emptiness that needed to be filled in my life. Mm-hmm. And interacting with customers and collecting and buying toys kind of filled that emptiness up.
Mm-hmm. And you collected toys. Toys shifted from you because there was like the little toys that Hot Wheels. And then I remember as a young person, you had like a real, like I remember one of your first cars was like a 1965 Impala. Yes. And then like
with ball tires, and dents all over it.
But the scale of and I remember when you turned 18, the first thing you did was go to Big Five and buy
shotgun.
A shotgun, right? A Mossberg black shotgun.
Pistol grip, right? Shotgun.
Pistol grip. Hey, so your toys shifted in scale.
Yes.
From something that was like a toy thing that you played, like, all right, my action figure's gonna have a car, my action figure's gonna have a weapon, to you having that. And you even had like a kind of, there's some Nike Cortez sitting on my shelf right here. And you went and touched them and I looked, but you kept the cleanest pair of Nike Cortezes I can remember ever. Like, I used to ask you if your Nikes were new, and you said, no, I just cleaned them. Yeah. So like, your accessories and how you kind of shifted that from like the small scale of action figure to like your accessories that you wore and had and interacted with. How was that? How did that shift change for you?
It really didn't shift because I was still involved in the toys, but I get attached to things. I find value in things that I find precious because everything tells a story to me. Everything reminds me, not everything, but certain things remind me of my childhood. And some things I just like and I want and I cherish it. Some things have a lot of value to them, to people in general. Like a collectible, but sometimes I may find a little something that has no value at all, but to me it's worth a lot more than those things that people find valuable. Again,
is it because those things hold memories?
Even sometimes I can walk out on a rainy day and smell wet concrete. It'll remind me of being 7 years old on Halloween night. Smelling certain trees and stuff reminds me of stuff. It's easy to explain, but it's going to be hard to understand. I feel like I've been going through phases all my life, but collecting, drawing, sculpting, that stuff's always been a part of my life.
Yeah, they've always seemed to be, all these things are real passions for you.
Yeah.
And when you were younger, also boxing became a kind of passion for you, right?
Yeah, well, I like to fight, and not to toot my own horn, I was good at it. But I got out of it street fighting before someone had my number. I was always afraid of getting beat up. So I
But not just beat up, shot.
Yeah, I just didn't want to think about that.
Yeah.
So I took that to another level and joined a boxing gym, and I was really good at it. But that was another avenue in my life that it was more like a lifestyle. Not something you just do for fun. And it was just too much.
So you just didn't see it as a sporting thing, but you saw it as something that was a discipline for yourself.
A discipline, commitment, if you will. But just the timing wasn't good. Having a big family, having kids, I was having 5 kids at a young age, and I love boxing. At the same time, I would go to the gym, come home and admire my collectible toys, my baseball cards, my comic books. At the same time, squeeze in a drawing. You know.
So you're kind of a geek.
Yes.
So you're kind of a geek thug.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, and I'm going to share something with you on this recording, and with you, Mario, that no one knew. You knew I collected baseball cards.
Yeah.
And comic books. Well, when we used to hang out in the street, and we were doing our activities without mentioning.
Involved in alternative economies.
Yes, supplementing our income, if you will.
Yeah.
Street pharmacy, if you will. I would literally catch the bus behind our neighborhood, our friends, our little clique, our gang member friends. I would catch the bus down Pacific Coast Highway to the baseball cards, South Bay baseball cards, and buy baseball cards. And when the bus would let me off, I would walk way around the block when none of my friends would see me with my album full of baseball cards, because I didn't want anyone to laugh at me or tease me, because I had this image of this badass gangbanger that
Tough guy.
Yeah, but actually,
you're a nerd.
Yeah, I was an undercover nerd. You know, I couldn't wait to get to that comic book shop.
But what was it with baseball cards? What was it with collect toys? What was it with this kind of the objects? The objects. What were they? The possession of these objects, the collectability of these objects. What was the core value in them? If some of them weren't things that were necessarily monetarily valuable, had other kinds of value. What was it for you? What was it?
The best way I could describe it, like I said, I can explain, but I don't know if you can understand my concept. To me, they were like portholes of thoughts, to me, it was like a escape. I was in a fantasy. I would lose myself in my collectibles. I would look at certain items, my Star Wars action figures. I would have dreams that I lived in that universe. I would look at my baseball cards. I felt like I want to be a baseball player. Like I said, there was an emptiness in my life that I could never fill, and my toys really my collections made me feel like escapes, like portholes to other realities. You know,
they were kind of like the gateway into the imagination.
Exactly.
For you to escape into them and imagine into them.
At one time, I wanted to be Rambo when I first saw the movie in 1981. Then I wanted to be my Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I used to dress up as a Vietnam vet at the age of 12, 11, and walk around places like that.
That was one of the games when we were playing when we were kids. We used to play ditch 'em, and it's funny that you brought up that Rambo story, because one of my vivid memories of you as a kid, or all of us as a kid, is that when we would play ditch 'em, remember we used to all wear black and camouflage. Yes. And all of us had like our black suit, our black clothes that we would play this game in.
On bikes.
And I remember one time we were in, we called, around our neighborhood, we had the big horseshoe that was a big looping street. And then an inner horseshoe or little horseshoe, which was like a little teardrop of a street. And there was a big giant tree in that little horseshoe. And you were the last kid. We couldn't find you no more. And everybody was kind of giving up, like, where's Ruben? We don't know where you were. And then all of a sudden we hear this big cracking sound. It sounded like thunder.
It's lights.
And we looked up, and in the tallest tree, you were like going down each branch. And then I remember you hitting the floor with a big thud. Boom! And we all looked at you, and you had this like look on your face, but it was totally like the scene from Rambo when Rambo fell through the tree and cut his arm, and then had to use a survival knife with a fishing line.
I had that knife. You remember?
It had a compass and all that. Yeah. So like, not only at that age were you trying to imagine into these things, but we were trying to act these things out. And
make it our reality.
Make it our reality. And I think one of the fun things about growing up where we did is that we grew up across the street from pretty much this huge elementary school.
Right.
But there was only people there till like about 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Right.
And then for the rest of the evening and on the weekends, it was like this big open playground for us to play in and imagine all these things. And then we had this big empty lot with an empty house on our block, on our street, that we always played in, on top of, and on the side of.
Made a clubhouse, dug ditches, water bikes.
I remember one time we dug a ditch and put weeds in there and then lit it on fire and then tried to jump it like Evel Knievel. And so like those types of things weren't so much just that they were things that we were thinking about, they were things that we were actually trying to enact.
Right.
So do you think that, what other types of things were you trying to enact, or what were you trying to, as you were growing up, like boxer, collector, thinker, portholes into other realities, what other types of things were kind of happening with you?
A lot of it is personal, as I said. I found something, two things. Even to this day, I feel there's an emptiness in my life, and I need to fill it. I got married at age 18, had 5 kids. My wife would get mad at me because she said I love my toys and my collectibles more than her own kids, and that's not true. Mm-hmm. I know it not to be true, but even to this day, I feel like I'm going through phase after phase after phase, but it all comes back to artwork, my drawings, my sculptures, you name it. Ever since first grade in kindergarten, I came number 1 all the way up to I graduated from elementary school in art.
Yeah.
Always. I think I was born with that.
Yeah. I remember like the first time seeing your artwork. I'm gonna take you back.
Oh no!
Because it had to do with this a comic strip cat named Heathcliff.
Yes, Riff-Raff.
And I remember the first spray paint graffiti thing I ever seen in my life was a Riff-Raff and Heathcliff that you painted on the back of the Cerna's fence. On the pink cinder blocks, you spray painted Riff-Raff. So that must have been, I don't know how old you were.
I also drew them on my pants and wore them in 1984. I wore graffiti pants all over the mall. I had people looking at me. I looked like a walking Salvador Dali painting. I had graffiti on my pants, and I thought it was so cool. And back then, it was cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. No, because I remember you bleached out.
Yes.
The technique was you bleach out the white area on the jeans, right? And then you paint on top of it.
Acrylic paints from Michael's or other hobby shops I would find.
So where did you get the idea for that?
I don't know if you remember, but we used to break dance.
Yeah.
Every fad that came out, every artistic
ghetto expression.
You name it, we did it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think we embraced a lot of the stuff because I can only speak for myself, not in general, but I had to feel that emptiness in my life, and I filled it with the most awesomest, cool things. Artwork, sculpting, breakdancing, joining a gang, selling crack, even
breakdancing. Did you have a breakdancing name? Did you? Was Riff Raff your breakdancing?
Riff Raff, Kool-Aid, you name it. I never settled on one. I'm like a chameleon. I try to adapt to every environment. But I don't know. I always think, I just never, Ruben never wants to be the same person.
But okay, so if Ruben doesn't want to be the same person, does that come down to like some kind of performance? Because I remember when we were little, we would play, and people always ask like, why are you guys funny? Why am I funny? How come I have a sense of humor? And I said, I always say it's because when we were kids with the friends I grew up with, we used to play Make Me Laugh.
Yes.
And we would sit on a bench, like all of us in a row. And then each one by one would stand up and have to do an act.
Whatever.
And each of us had a different type of act. I remember I did burp talking.
Yes, I used to do that.
I was trying to do it. I have to have soda before I do it. But you used to do, and I don't want to offend anybody, but you would do like a retarded kid.
I remember that.
And you would pull your pants way up, and you would pull your hat real low, and that was like a sense of performance. And that was like the beginning of like a performance, and through all of these different phases, either you just listed off a bunch of them. They were about kind of performing,
right?
And performing not maybe consciously for an audience, but performing for kind of everyone in general. Like anybody watching you. You had like, I think all of us had to develop a skin like that to have like a sense of like who we were. Really, like the kid that snuck on the bus and went to go fill up his baseball card album.
You're right.
And then a public persona, because that was like a private way of a private person that you were and we are, and then having to have like a kind of persona or a performance for everyone else.
Right.
And that, I don't know if that just happens like because you're a kid, but I think it also came a little bit too with like all of us and how we interacted with each other, because I meet other people and they don't have personalities that save their life.
Right.
I'm like, man, where did you grow up? Didn't you have anybody that you could tell stories with or play games with or use your imagination with?
Right.
And I don't think they did at all. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah. I think we're fortunate enough to have a lot of friends growing up.
Yeah.
We were all unique in our own way.
Yeah.
You were that one kid who had all the toys that I couldn't afford, and we used to play with you, and then we'd go down the street and steal the other kids' toys. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, that kid. But just besides playing with toys, we were just like imagination. I remember one time we came to my house, and Martine, our other friend, I don't remember who went in the garage, and they were like, the Bloody Mary's there and she wants you.
Yeah.
And then I was scared, so I ran across the street and hung onto the fence, and they had to drag me off like, no, she's not there. I was like, no, the Bloody Mary. But so where do you think these kind of phases and these different personas that you've taken on, or these different interests that you've taken on, and how they've kind of led you through your life, and where do you think like now they've kind of all melded into one persona that is you now, or are you still trying to like figure it out?
And that's Mario, you're amazing because you're asking all the right questions, because I really wanted to interrupt and tell you that I'm not saying I don't know who I am, but I find myself learning and changing. I don't want to say I don't know who I am, but set aside my interests, they don't change, but I'm learning more about myself as I go along. I feel like I'm going in phases. Mm-hmm. I'm 43 years old. At the same time, I still think about reading comic books, playing video games, sculpting, drawing. I have flashes of memory. Sometimes I have thoughts like I called you and I said I took some naps, and I had these images of artwork that I needed to put into I wanted to put them either in a drawing or in a sculpture. Mm-hmm. And I haven't forgot about them. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question is, have all my thoughts of everything that in my life come together, melded together? No. I feel like I'm an ongoing transformation. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel. That's my psychological analysis, if you will, that I'm learning more about myself every day, every month, every year. And maybe that's why I feel like there's an emptiness in my life that needs to be filled. Starting to think maybe I should just continue just evolving, if you will, with each day that comes by, because it feels like that, like I said, an emptiness that needs to be filled. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's just, it's meant for me to, who knows?
But like when you're saying an emptiness, because you've been bringing up, like, emptiness has come up a few times in this conversation. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what you kind of mean by emptiness. Because what I hear you saying is not so much about an emptiness that there's an incompleteness with you, because I feel like there's a kind of completeness in who you are as a person.
There's just a lot to learn.
A lot to learn.
I want to know.
A thirst for wanting to learn new things is more of...
My mind drifts off.
Yeah.
I often wonder, are we alone in this universe? I always wonder, God, aliens, how primitive we still are as a species. I mean, they're not strange thoughts to me, but I don't talk about this to people. My mind has a lot of questions. I don't. My mind does.
Yeah.
It wanders. I want to know. I feel like if I walk into a big room and there's a lot of doors, I'm going to open each door because I want to know, regardless of the consequences.
Yeah.
I have to know.
Yeah.
There's a question mark above my head, and I want to know.
Yeah. So it's more like, it's not so much an incompletion or a hole. It's more or less like seeing that there's like just an abundance of other things out there, options. Like, want to explore all of them.
There's 1 billion unanswered questions.
Yeah.
And believe me, I want to know each and every single one of them.
Yeah.
I wish I could live to be 1,000,000 years old so I can after everybody.
Yeah.
If I had one question, I can ask God one question. If you believe in God, I would ask, can I know what you know? I want to know.
It's the ultimate taboo, right? Because that's what happened at the beginning. That's what kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, right?
No, they're just stupid. They listen to everybody else. I do my own thing. I find out for myself.
Yeah.
I want to know. So, like I said, it feels like there's an emptiness in my life. But wow, Mario, you helped me bring out the right explanation, because I really needed to figure it out. I just really want to know. I'm curious. I'm very curious. I want to know things.
Yeah.
And it eats me up. I want to ask you a question. Hasn't there ever been nights where you can't sleep and you just toss and turn because you're so darn curious about certain things?
Yeah,
and you want to know?
Of course, yeah.
I'll share a personal experience with me, which has nothing to do with this interview, but there's times where I'm in my store and I see something that's planted firmly on a table and it moves on its own. A person would say there's a ghost, there's a spirit or something. I say it's a science we yet not understand yet, because everything's quantum physics, quantum mechanics.
It's a phenomenon we just don't understand.
It's a plain and simple, in modern times, it's a science we yet not understand. And then my mind drifts off on another. My thoughts are like a tree, and the branches keep sprouting out. And each one are questions and thoughts and curiosities. Next thing you know, I'm climbing that big tree that I fell off of when I was a little kid. But I don't want to fall off this tree. I want to climb it and see every branch.
Oh yeah.
That's how my brain works.
Well then let's talk about that, because what you're explaining now is what technology and the internet claims to kind of do.
Yes.
With like Google and all this information. And I'm curious, because I know that for a while you were kind of out of the realm of technology or interfacing with technology. You could might have been sending emails and been on the phone and basic kind of things.
Read newspapers, magazines.
Like kind of old classic media. And then to be home now, and that's kind of how we got back in touch, is because you use media, you use the internet, right?
Right.
And we contacted each other first on Facebook and all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of how we started seeing what each other's interests were again. So how... And I know you have a smartphone. You're totally online with the rest of us.
Right.
So is this contemporary moment with the access to technology and the internet, is it starting to satisfy at some degree your curiosity into finding information?
No.
What's missing from the internet? Because they say everything is there. What else do you want from there?
I'm drinking milk right now, but I want to eat steak, if you will, and information. I want to know. I want to know everything. My mind drifts off. If I can Google search something, I get an answer. No, I think we're just scratching the surface. There's more. I don't think. I think we're still a primitive species where we don't know everything, and that eats me up. Honestly, I feel like I lived. I don't want to freak you out, but I feel. Honestly, I don't know if I believe in reincarnation, but I feel like I've been born over and over and over and over, and I'm making mistakes, but I'm bettering. I'm lessening the mistakes as I live different lives.
I'm not the best I can be, but I'm better than I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the quest, right?
Yeah.
But so the internet, but is it at least a tool to scratch the surface?
Yeah.
So
all
it's getting some chi-chi. It
doesn't make the itch go away. It just scratches it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. So it doesn't make the red marks go away. It just gives it a little bit of soothing. Oh yeah.
That's it.
It's a little bit of lotion for a second.
It's that wooden stick you reach behind your back to scratch that itch. That's all the internet is to me right now.
Okay.
You know, I feel like I wish I could be a hacker and break into the Pentagon, NASA, find out, and know. I think that'll probably be the death of me one day.
But maybe that's the quest, because if you know, if the X factor is what pushes you with curiosity to be seeking and to be looking and to be on the quest for, then once it's known, then it's over, right? Or do you think that once it's known, that's just another place of starting asking a new set of questions?
Yes. What you're asking me is what sparked the thought right now. If you ever seen that movie with Jodie Foster called Contact?
Yeah, I remember that. With the big dish.
The big dish, and she was in a pod and she fell down straight from where it was at, and they thought it was. She was in the middle of some kind of form of rotocast that created a dimensional porthole, but she fell right through it in a matter of seconds. But when she came out of it and looked at her watch, there was 18 minutes missing instead of 2 seconds. She had met someone in an alternate universe. She traveled 100 trillion light years and saw many other people or beings traveling. And she got there. This thing appeared to her, an image that was downloaded from her mind to look like her father. And she said, "Where am I? Who are you?" And she finally figured out that this being downloaded information from her mind, just who knows by thought. And she asked, "Who are you? Where am I at? Who created this?" And this, I wouldn't say eternal being, but this old ancient being, whatever it was that transformed into her father's image, says, "We don't know who built this. There's many lives existence out there, and we don't know where it started or where it ends." And that wouldn't satisfy me. I don't know, but to me that's priceless. Knowledge, they say knowledge is power. To me, I just want to know. I don't want power. I just want to know. You know,
and in this making of like that you're talking about with the, your kind of processes that are happening with the collecting, the searching, the kind of, because I remember too with your collection, it wasn't so much that you would just find things, you would also restore things. I remember like retouch things, fix things, and almost sometimes you made them better than what they originally were.
I cherish
they were like sometimes better than the original thing.
Well, I mean prototypes. Creating
but I remember like you airbrushing like Han Solo heads and things like this. And you would color match them, and so there's this idea, this process, and then the drawing, and now into like full blown sculptures that you're making. Are these kind of bits, or do you see these as bits of information, or to like that kind of getting to that place of knowing, or do you see them as a kind of like kind of remnants of like a meditative state? Like when you're creating them, you go into a meditative state. That's the process, and in that you're kind of searching and questing on an internal plane, and then they somehow at the end like they turn out to be one of your sculptures, and or how does that process work with the making of things? because some of the questions that I've been asking some of my students is because a lot of times they want to think through it, right? They have like a whole thought process that happens, but then they don't want to make through it. So like, what is the difference for you between like thinking through something? Because I know you're always thinking about stuff and then making through it. What is the difference in that those processes?
I don't know the difference because the thought process you just explained to me is not something, I don't think about it. I just do it. As I told you, if I saw a room full of doors, I would want to open all the doors without hesitating.
Okay.
When I sculpt something, I see a one-dimensional image. I have no other reference besides that. I sculpt a three-dimensional image out of it because I can see the back, I can see the anatomy in my own mind. And that's the way my mind works. I really don't know. I think sometimes our minds are just wired that way. Hence, sometimes you have autistic kids that are brilliant mathematicians. I feel that a certain part of my brain is just a lot more stimulated in that department of art and drawing and sculpting than the other parts of my brain. I never had to stimulate it. I mean, ever since I can remember, I could pick up a pencil and draw anything. Same thing with sculpting. I never sculpted in my life. I'm sculpting awesome artwork pieces that people want, that I like. And I don't even want to sell it because I want to keep it. I want to be the only one with it.
There goes back to the collector in you, right?
Yeah, well, I don't care about the money because I find it priceless. It's mine. I want it. I want people to admire it.
Yeah. But you want to share it.
Yeah, I want people to see it. I'd rather see my piece in a museum and let everybody admire it than someone owning it. I think I'm like Indiana Jones. There you go. I'm going back into my passions. It belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
So
the sharing is important too.
Absolutely.
It isn't just about you making it and hiding it.
No.
It's about making it and sharing it.
Right.
And on that note, Ruben, I'd like to thank you for coming here today and visiting.
I got a lot more to share with you.
No, this is just the first one. I imagine we'll do a lot more.
Awesome.
But I think this is like a great place to start for both of us. Again, we're here with Ruben Alvarez. I'm Mario Ybarra Jr. here at Slanguage Studio. Thank you guys for listening. Talk to you later.